him, and now I'm working on trying to paint him to the highest level I possibly can right now. I've got a new light in my light fixture, which is hopefully going to brighten up most of the studio area, my workbench area. But beyond that, I really hope that this is going to be more than bright enough for anyone watching the stream. Right now, I just got back from dinner, so not super anticipating a lot of people here because this is way later than I normally stream. But what I am going to do is continue working on him and hope that I can paint him to a considerably higher level than I had him at. That's kind of it. There's no point to this challenge outside of me wanting to try and be better than I was when I first painted this lad. I will say, one of the unfortunate things about painting on camera is that I have a far inferior command of like my motor skills here because I'm having to hold the guy differently. I'm having to paint him a little more for the camera, so I'm definitely going to struggle a bit more to get some of the finer paint like brush strokes done. But yep, that is what I have decided to set for myself, and eventually I'll get back to painting the Puma and whatnot. But today, and at least until this current obsession wears thin, I just wanted to make him as pretty as possible because I really like this model. And I would like to be able to play him instead of having him just kind of sit in a drawer as part of a custom chapter that I'm never going to use. So that is the whole purpose of having him here. One of the things I'm kind of trying to learn with him, as with everything now, is more effective blending, because I've noticed that in general my blending is a bit sloppy and I would love to make it better. You can't even see what I'm doing. So I'm using him, painting him as an excuse to get better at blending my colors together, with the eventual hope that it'll be at, you know, what I would consider competition level. But you know, who knows? At this point, it is purely because I want to practice a skill. I might also at some point just have to get myself a new paintbrush, because I think this one is starting to show its age a little bit. But that's okay. This probably isn't going to be the most talkative stream, simply because I'm so focused in on making sure that, you know, I paint smooth layers and that I'm hitting all the spots I need to hit. So I might not necessarily be the most talkative right now. Though if people start showing up, I'll definitely try and interact, but not gonna be the most important thing on my mind. Go ahead and work our way back down the ladder. Here. That's probably a good place to start. I will say, by far one of the hardest things to learn, at least for me right now, has definitely been where light goes. I am not very good at figuring out where my values go and where I'm supposed to have light spots versus dark spots, but it's all a learning process. It's all about practicing and actively trying to get better. Hopefully, through doing this, I will slowly increase my proficiency until stuff starts looking really good. Speaking of, I want that there. There we go. But yeah, like I've talked about before, the only way to get better is to keep working at it, right? So that's kind of the plan here. working back and forth till eventually. A little bit darker now. The brown a little bit further down. I feel like I'm kind of doing this backwards because from what I've seen with watching good artists block in is they straight up block in the colors. They'll start with a really dark color and go up to a really bright color. And then at the edges, that's when they're going to start doing their blending. So that's probably something I should try and incorporate a little more effectively. Now, the thing about his shield, or his, I don't even know what that's called, the shield on his shoulder, is that it's got kind of an inward curve to it. So, thinking of it as a cylinder, like a cylinder, I'm not really sure how the light would hit it. I'd figure that the light would be brightest here and here, and it would kind of reflect in the middle. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think what's going to happen is I'm going to start... No, okay. What am I going to do? Mix some brighter yellow. Use my brush there. Value or sketch out. Transitional spot like here, which will hopefully betray more of the curve. And down here, do the same thing. And if this doesn't work, I'll just paint over it again, right? It's kind of the beauty of these things. Song convinced me I wanted to do this. I wanted to live stream paint to this song. I don't know why, but that's what I was gunning for. And towards the center, probably start really small. A little larger. Let's go. Feels fairly substantial. And work our way back down the sides. Here, work up. Let that do that. And then cross blend back out, I suppose. Get the yellow. And I'll be honest, at this point I'm just kind of making stuff up. I actually don't know how to do what I'm trying to do. So hopefully this will read appropriately. Towards the center, actually no, it's still drawing, so I'm going to give that a second. I think what I'm actually going to do is go back to the chest plate a little bit and see what I can do about creating better sensitive shadow inside here. even if they're not exceptionally dark, because there's not a lot of depth going on. There we go. Hey Motorhead, how's it going? Not a whole lot. I decided that since I was working on this guy, and I was going to be down here for a bit, I was going to take the time and stream, and if anyone caught me, cool. If not, that's cool too. Right now, I'm personally challenging myself to paint this guy to the absolute best of my ability. And I've never painted something to this degree of detail before, so I'm struggling. Right now, all I've really done is this arm, and I'm kind of really happy with how it's turned out. But I've been working on kind of his breastplate, and I'm working on the shield, and trying to. I'm not very good with blending, and so what I'm trying to do is get better. And so any chance I get, I'm working a little bit on it, because I still don't know like proper water ratios and that kind of thing. So right now, I'm doing everything in my power to not screw this up too much. And in the case of like right here where I've got the dark wheat blending into the lighter color, I think I might have gone too dark on the brown, because it's way too stark in comparison to the yellow. But that's okay. This is all just kind of a thought experiment. And as I always say, if it doesn't end up looking good, well, then I can just paint over it. This is already, I think, his third paint job, because I had him as an Imperial Fist when I first got him, and then he became a chapter master for a custom chapter. And now, since I never played that custom chapter with my my armies or anything, he's going back to being an Imperial Fist, because I've kind of decided that I'm going to have a Primaris wing and a Firstborn wing of my army. And I am eventually going to go back and repaint some of those guys too, just to get them up to an obscenely high level of detail. But right now I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. And I was cleaning out my stuff and throwing away some of the resin that I printed that I wasn't very fond of anymore. And I saw him and I was like, I really like this model. He was like my first Space Marine HQ. And so I kind of want to use him again. I don't know, do you have any specific models that they may not necessarily be great, or they're really old, or you just really like them regardless of anything else? Because that's kind of my thing with him, is that I from what I understand, he's some OG Marines. You must have some stories to tell about them from 3rd edition. Yeah, that's right, you've been playing for a really long time. I would love to hear stories about some of your favorite units, some of your favorite Marines from like the way long back, that doesn't care what anyone else says, you're still going to use them, you're never going to sell them. You got to have something like that. I haven't been playing long enough really to have that kind of attachment. I just really like how this guy looks. It came in the box set when you got the models in the terrain. Was that the one that came with the Dark Eldar? I'll never see the old G Plague Marines and Plague Demons. God, I really like the old Plague Marines. I kind of wonder, do you have any kind of educated guess or presumption as to why they stopped selling, or why they resculpted them so that they had like mouths and less organs and stuff? Because they seem to have moved away from the explicit gore and organs of the old Marines to this more kind of abstract, monstrous thing. Which, don't get me wrong, I really like the new sculpts for the Plague Marines. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. But, Yeah, they still do. They have a decent amount, but it's like the organs that they have now are far less explicit than they used to be. You know what I mean? Like, it used to be actual intestines and stomach bits hanging out. Now it seems to be more like big blobs of skin or like eldritch tentacles. Just look marine-y, I guess, the illicit ones. That's absolutely fair too. I saw someone try and claim that they believed it was because they were trying to make them less explicit, because they're like less like human gory, so that they could sell the game to kids. You gotta remember the old ones were all hand by hand sculpted. Yeah, and I thought they were beautiful. But that it definitely is a thing. There was definitely a certain skill that had to go with that. I don't know. I feel like Games Workshop has done a lot of things, and some of them have been great, and some of them have been less great. But I don't really fault a lot of their decision making. What do you think about the whole thing with the constant shortages that happen with their special box sets and their releases? That ended up not looking too bad. I think I could go a little more yellowy over here, because that did happen. The Lion special box set and the commemorative or limited edition or collector's whatever of his book, they all sold out almost instantaneously in every market they were available in. And I mean, this keeps happening, right? Like, people are lucky that they're getting access to somebody. Less than that, the book, the Arcs of Omen book, I think sold out in like an hour or so. But the Lion and his personal novel by Mike Brooks, I'm almost positive those things sold out within about 5 minutes, if not even shorter. I remember seeing recently a bunch of people complaining about, oh gosh, I don't know if I can hit that, how the website went down pretty much immediately, and so they were left in this queue hoping that they could get to it. When they got back in the queue, their stuff was gone because someone else had already bought it, and that can't feel good. But has this like been a problem that Games Workshop regularly has? Because when I got in the hobby, I remember hearing that the Indomitus box sold out, because that's how new I am to the hobby. That's unfortunate. I mean, I've heard a couple of different things about it, and I don't tend to trust the ones that are like, well, Games Workshop's just greedy, and they know that they can make more money. In the old school days, you could get Army box deals all the time. Yeah, that is fair. Nowadays, though, it's becoming more difficult. I think GW is greedy. Yeah, I feel like they are, but I also feel like, especially after reading some of the things about their price increases and whatnot, that they've actually lagged behind other companies and their price increases. Oh, we put a ton out, but no enough there isn't for everyone. Yeah, that's kind of what I heard, and that's kind of what I understand. One thing that someone proposed was that it's just a lack of actual physical space to store. So, like, their warehouses can only hold so much, and they realistically just can never meet the demand costs, which really sucks. Yeah, GW wants 70% of your store to be dedicated to your product. That would explain some things. I know for a fact that the store that I go to does not have that much space dedicated to their product, and it always seems like he's behind on orders because they just aren't showing up, or they're not allocating a lot to him, or that kind of thing. And that would definitely explain it. I don't know, they seem to be doing pretty well, though. They've definitely got me hyped for 10th edition. I'm pretty excited to see how it's going to play with all the changes, because it seems like a fairly drastic change from ninth, which was more of an incremental change from 8th, is my understanding. I saw some of those box deals go up on eBay almost instantly. Yeah, that's the worst part about it, is you'll try and get it online, and you'll try and go to their website to get it, and it'll be shut down because it crashed, and as it's trying to reload, you'll go to eBay and immediately see people selling it for triple the price. That's just not fair. But like, I don't have a strong enough business acumen in the least. I would really wonder, how do you put a stop to that kind of scalping? I mean, to some extent, I would almost say they should make it made to order, but I think that would slow down the whole process, right? Because then they'd have to do like the pre-release, where you would get to kind of get your name in line, and then you would have to wait a couple weeks to get it, as they have to now meet these new costs. I don't know. I have no. All I know is right now I am quite excited for 10th edition. Every new news blurb they release is enticing me further for it. And they used to do a pre-release in the old days. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Okay. I remember the shop owner used to say, "Who wants to put a down payment on it?" And it was in your hand. That makes sense. See, that would be cool if they could do that again. I don't know, because they are a publicly traded company, so it's probably got to have a lot to do with that too. They've got to constantly show that they're making ridiculous profits. Hand over fist, whatever that's called. So that's probably got to be part of it. Okay. But yeah, did you read about how they're doing? They just released the combat phases on Warcom today, and they released how the psychic attacks are now going to work, and how psychers are going to work. And I gotta say, I definitely like the new system, as someone who's too lame to play psychers. But I'm curious what other people who play like Grey Knights and Thousand Suns and Eldar will think about it, because it's definitely a change. I talked to a friend. I haven't seen anything. I put a 9-hour day at work tonight. It sucked. I'm sorry, buddy. Well, at least you're home now, right? You can just relax. Hopefully not have to think about it. So basically, yeah, that's the goal. Basically, the way the new... They only have 5 phases to the game, I believe. I'm not going to remember this all off the top of my head. But it's command phase, movement phase, shooting phase, charge phase, and fight phase. And that's how it ends. The way morale works is going to be different in a way that I personally appreciate, but I'll get to that in a minute. They showed off 2 Psyker profiles, which were the Primaris, or not the Primaris, my god. I was ran a librarian with my Blood Angels. I mean, with them, it seems to make a lot of sense. I don't know what their specific things are, but... Oh, so you've seen the new Commander Dante, right? Oh my god. The new Commander Dante makes me want to start a Blood Angels army, and I don't like the Blood Angels very much. And a Calidus Assassin, that's an interesting addition. They must be really good for you. Fair enough. So I forget though. Which one is the Calidus Assassin? Is that the anti-psyker assassin? Nah, she was just nasty. Fair enough. Because the assassins I'm remembering are the Berserk one that's all hopped up on drugs. Oh, she had a force weapon. Okay. But yeah, there's the one that's all hopped up on drugs, there's the sniper, there's the anti-psyker, and I don't remember what the Calidus do, because I don't remember names. So what made a force weapon so good in like your older armies? Because I know that they changed how weapon profiles work and this, that, and the other. Neuro Disruptor. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. For them. For you, it probably was Laugh Riot. We could roll her armor piercing. Good lord! That's gross. It was a flamer template and ignored cover. My god. So either you killed something really hard, or you killed everything, no matter where it was, or with like no cover bonus for them. That's kind of gross. Okay, I think it's about time for me to struggle my way through doing another shade. Are Calidus Assassins not good anymore? Or is it that you just... They've kind of... Well, back then you could move, shoot, and assault, right? So if you played it right, you could wipe out 10-man Marines. Good lord. See, maybe it's just because I got into it because of the lore, but, like, the tactical squad for the base Marines, not... For the Space Marines... the lore always seems to overmatch them compared to what they can actually do in game. They don't seem like a very strong troop choice in actual 40k. And that's always been a bit disappointing for me. But I think that might just be me coming in with like over expectations. The force weapon was you take a wound, they die no matter the... Oh my god. I can see why they call it a force weapon, because it just forced you to die. Let's go ahead and black that out. Or brown that out. Not black it out, but... Just go ahead. Do that a little bit. Yeah, because they still have like a force stave attached to the librarian, but it's definitely not that powerful. Don't know what she's like now, but I heard she's nothing like she used to be. Yeah, my understanding is that you don't take Agents of the Imperium anymore because they're just not worth it. Like, if you really need a sniper, then maybe you'll take a sniper assassin, but there's no real point. They're not very strong. Extraordinary Everswords have the combat drugs. Yeah, those are the crazy ones, right? The ones that, like, have a personal nuke attached to them. Sometimes you would get, like, 10 attacks. That's pretty obscene. A single model at that time getting 10 attacks, you might as well kiss your unit goodbye. You could use the Black Rage rules. Oh, okay. So on a select roll, he became a member of the Death. He would become. Good lord. So basically, he was going to be he would be a huge pain in the ass to deal with, no matter how the thing rolled out. That's pretty impressive. A plus to movement and his attacks. Good lord. Yeah, on one of those guys, that just seems like an awful lot. Not in a bad way. No, I didn't get into the Warhams until very, very recently. I think I've talked about it before, but it's all brand new, so it's kind of neat hearing what these things used to do and how these models had so much more expectation to them than they do now. I love the old school when I got 7th rules and shit, and I was really not into it. That's fair. I have no idea how 7th edition played. I know that the new Age of Darkness kind of uses a heavily modified version of that rule set. But, I've mentioned before, I just don't have time to get into another war game. Oh, you got into, I watched 8th and 9th. Probably for the better. If 7th didn't do it for you, I doubt 8th and 9th were going to do it for you. I don't know, hopefully 10th has something that can scratch your itch a bit. I like where 10th is going. That's good. If it gets you back into playing the game and lets you have fun with your models again, that's really cool. There we go. I want to choose my Corn Army for Blood Angels. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of meat flying everywhere. That's a good army set. Yeah, I need to finish. Oh no, I need to finish printing my Whirlwind and my Drop Pod. Actually, that didn't end up looking too bad. But one printing and painting, and once I do that, I'll have my 9th edition army done, and hopefully the points change won't be too drastic, and I'll be able to use some of that stuff in 10th. That's kind of my plan. And so hopefully all of that will work out okay. I found the camp. This is Blood Angels player who won the Open. He was 8-0 with this list. I think I'm running it. Hopefully they don't change it too bad for on you in 9th. I don't know. It seems like they're drastically changing quite a bit. So I'm kind of hesitant about gaming for that in that way for 10th edition. It's one of the reasons why I made my list to be like 100% fluff. I don't think I included anything that's used in competitive except for like Devastators in a Drop Pod. Everything else is just things I want to play or things that I thought would fit really well in an Imperial Fist list. No, with multi-meltas. Though grav guns definitely wouldn't be a bad idea. My understanding was that you drop them behind enemy lines and their shooting range is, I think it's 18. And so, since they're at 9 inches, they're going to do D6 plus 2 damage. And you've got, from what I know, it was for a bit. But, like, the multi-meltas were just gross no matter what they fired against. And so that was my original plan, and what I heard was halfway decent. But I mean, the fists were apparently hot ass throughout all of 9th. And like, they progressively got worse as 9th trudged along. Auspex Tactics did a video, and their last win rate, from what I saw in tournaments, was like 27%. Which is, the single worst win rate across all of 40k. Because they had them lumped in with the rest of the Space Marines, but he was like, yeah, so some of them are going a little higher in the mid-30s and the 40s, and then you have the Imperial Fists and Raven Guard at the bottom, with the Raven Guard doing like 31% and the Imperial Fist doing like 27%. The worst army in the game win rate-wise was doing better than the Imperial Fists. So I'm thankful I never played this game competitively. Though it would have felt pretty good to win win or place in a tournament with quote unquote the worst army in the game. More yellow into the buff, please. It's okay. I like my cheese boys. They don't have to be winners. They just have to not back down. A guy played Dark Eldar back in the day, and Archons were gross and Mandrakes. I don't even know what those units are. I don't follow the Dark Eldar enough to know what half of that stuff is. I have a friend who wants to play them, and so I printed out a couple of baseline troops to see if he liked it. Archon is their HQ. Oh dear. That's already not a good sign. But he hasn't been back over to do any painting since I last talked to him about it, so hopefully he'll find time and he'll show back up. Back in the day, he could have a Shadowfield 2+ save on everything. No! No, that's illegal. That just seems so horribly pushed. If you failed, he lost it. Oh, okay. So, was it that they were squishy enough, or was that part of the rules that if you failed to save, you had to remove that model from the game? This power up was a 4+, but you died outright if you failed. Fair enough, I guess. That sounds a whole lot less terrifying than just a guy with a ridiculous 2-up. Okay. Go ahead and get a little more of this, and let's highlight. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. You lose the shield, then he goes back to being a 4 or 5+. Yeah, that's infinitely more killable. Golly, though. That's a ridiculously powerful ability. It's kind of neat that they put that in there, but also kind of terrifying. I don't know, I think the only things in the game right now that have those kind of saves are Makari and... is it Kaldor Drago? I mean, I don't know if you'd know, but I know that they have like 3-up invulnerable saves, and that's, I think, the best you can do right now, because they've tried to balance the game a little bit. Okay, here's the part that I hate the most, because this is not a good pen. This is not a good brush for this. Doing me some panel or some line and but yeah, I remember reading earlier in this edition that Dark Eldar or Drukhari or whatever you want to call them, before they had the new edition or the new Codex update, is that they were really disgusting, and they were just winning tournaments really handily. So they seem to have gotten that under control by releasing a more overpowered army, and then, you know, nerfing that thing back down. I will say that has been one thing that's been really nice about Games Workshop this edition, is that they have been very responsive to issues with the balance. But it's kind of been at the cost of imbalancing everything else, I feel like. Though I did remember hearing that the dude that had like 120 racks on board. Good lord, why would you do this to yourself? No, the only one that I heard doing mass mob infantry like that or whatever was the guy who brought like 300 guardsmen. And that just seems like an awful lot of silliness. I think this might be too... I think I might have gone too dark. I think I went too dark. I don't need this dark a level of depth underneath his fingies. I'm gonna brighten that back up. The one that tickled me the most, and the one that I liked, that made me laugh the hardest, I knew a guy that had 500,000 of guard. My good lord. His name was Bill. He was an old Scottish guy. Man must have really loved the military. How would he carry that in? A 5-gallon bucket? Like one of the buckets that you find drywall mud in? There's a full Mordian Iron Guard army. Yeah, you're right with the word full there. That's incredible. Did he ever take pictures of it? Did he have like an army walk or a parade where he just laid it all out and took photos? Because that would be some impressive photography going on there. Okay, I'm struggling to clean up my failure here. He did once at the local shop. And how long did that take him to clean up afterwards? Or did he have like people from the shop helping him? It was like 8 tables, I bet. But that had to be a really cool spectacle to walk into. Just being like, hey, check out this literal miniature army. No, an actual literal army. It's big enough to be an army. 200 tanks.
I wonder how some of those numbers that he had compared to
real world numbers. 5,000 guard. That's amazing. Should have played a command units, etc., etc. You guys should have played a game where it would have been everyone against him. You wouldn't be able to leave for a week.
Okay.
No, I didn't do that well enough. Okay, come on. Go ahead and get just a little bit of...
There. Come on. There we go.
Man, I thought it was impressive seeing someone do an entire chapter of Space Marines. That just seems obscene.
Okay, I'd figure that over here would be the lightest point, given that it's curved. And this is where Ben Repaints dies a little on the inside,
because highlighting fingers just seems like way too much work. And then when the new NIDS came out, there was a rogue trader that came around. It was a massive battle. You each got 1,000 points of 20 players versus 20 NID players, I'm assuming. That's pretty cool. I mean, I heard, was it in 8th edition they did Apocalypse rules that didn't quite work out? Because I remember reading on the Twitter earlier today, someone was like, things I wish they would change about 10th edition, or would be in 10th edition, and one of the things that was mentioned was a retooling of Apocalypse, because it didn't work very well in 8th edition.
I do know that I would absolutely love to get into Epic Warhammer, or for them to start re-releasing Epic Warhammer.
That's something that's interesting. It seems more compact and easier to carry around. The idea of being able to play,
you know, God Titan seems really neat. I don't know. I think that sounds like a cool idea. And I know that
that's when they brought out Old One Eye and the Red Terror, and happened that it was the part of Armageddon after it happened in 1997.
That's fair. But I do know, yeah, so that was probably
special bespoke rules for that release. But I do know that, like I said, I think in 8th edition they did have Apocalypse rules. I remember seeing a couple of YouTube channels try and play Apocalypse style games, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around how big those games got. Like having a whole army behind a I can never remember the name, a Gargant, and then you'd have the whole army behind it, or like one of the Wraith Titans. I don't remember the names of these things because I've been so stuck in Space Marines. Epic was awesome. I knew a ton of guys. Yeah, I hope they get back into that. One of my buddies and I had thought about printing armies at like 12 or 15 millimeters so we could do something akin to Epic. But it kind of fell out of our immediate interests as other things kind of reached back in. The people who played Battlefleet Gothic too. I bet. Battlefleet Gothic looks really cool. I know One Page Rules has their own version of it. They call it FTL. And I have no idea if it's any good. 40K will always crush all other games. Yeah, it does feel like that, don't it? I mean, I do appreciate that, once again, Games Workshop seems to be trying to listen to its players, and it does seem to be trying to... Well, it's kind of the granddaddy of them all, right?
It's the one that everyone thinks of. It's the one that everyone remembers. It really is kind of, it's kind of like for miniature wargaming, it almost feels like 40K is to that as D&D is to role-playing games. Even if you're not going to play D&D, you still kind of say, hey, you want to play D&D? Oh, goodness. I need to change my workstation setup because I'm having to crane over so much and put so much weight forward that it's really starting to mess with my shoulders and back. But I do think it's just because especially when you really start buying into it, there's so much to scratch like almost any itch with 40K, and that's kind of what makes me love it, you know? Don't like the game? Well, then it's got cool lore. Don't like the lore? Well, it's got some great video games. Don't like that? Well, there's a million models that you want to pay. Yeah. No, I'm aware of that. I messed up my sciatic nerve like 10 years ago. Not quite, like 5-6 years ago. And so I've been pretty careful about it. I'm not hunching terribly bad, but normally I paint basically underneath where I've got the phone right now, so I can have more of a straight back. But to make everything work for the staging, I've got to kind of crane forward a bit and rest my elbows on the table. And it's because I'm using a fairly deep desk, and with how I've got my lighting set up and everything. In fact, to be honest, wait, no, I really can't change that because the overhead light is attached in the back. Painting like you're looking at a shrimp. Yeah, I know, right? One of the things I don't want to do, and I've kind of promised myself I won't do, is I don't want to end up getting one of those, like, hunches in my neck. Because I've managed to stay healthy enough to have really good posture. And the last thing I want to do is be bent as I get older. I did find out recently that I seem to have lost 1.5 inches off of my height. Because for a while I was walking around at 5'9", I thought. Beat you to it, don't get into a car crash. Nah, I'd rather not. Let's not do that. I don't want car crashes. I'm sorry that's happened to you, but I'm gonna try not to have that happen to me. But I was walking around at what I thought was about 5'9", like 5'8", 5'9" on a good day, but it turns out I'm 5'7" and a half, which is a little shorter than I had hoped, but doesn't affect my ego too much. I lost 3 inches. My chiropractor gave me one back. That's fair, I guess. Not ideal, but, you know. Work with what you got, I guess. Yeah, no, after all the hard stuff that I've been dealing with, I really want to start getting back into some of my physical activity. Which means that my evenings are starting to becoming more active. Which is good. Time gets denied to many. Yeah, that is true. That's why I'm going to try and make mine go as long as possible by eating healthy and staying as healthy as I can. One thing that I'm really motivated to start doing again now that I'm done with all of like my hospital procedures and whatnot is I want to get back into boxing. It was something I did for a couple years and I really enjoyed it, and I've been kind of doing it as a hobby. And I've got a friend who I've been training and he really enjoys it. So we're kind of chomping at the bit to get back into it. And just recently, there was that Creator Clash thing. I don't know if you followed that at all, but it's a bunch of YouTubers and influencers and whatnot that do essentially celebrity boxing for charity. And I watched the Game Grumps, or I used to watch them a lot more, so I kind of was following Aaron. And I watch Critical Role. I used to. And so I was kind of following Marisha, and watching them all do their boxing thing got me motivated to want to do my boxing thing. And yeah, I want to go out and hit things again. I'm getting antsy not doing it. I'm gonna have to switch back over to a not Games Workshop brush at some point, because this base brush is nice, but it keeps curling on me. And I also got to figure out a way to be far less abusive to these brushes, because I keep thinking I'm doing fine, and then within like a month, they're essentially useless. Like, I'm not pushing them too hard on the, oh, hi, I forgot to do that blending. I'm not pushing them too hard on the palette. I'm not pushing them too hard when I clean them. They just, I don't know. I'm doing something to piss them off. So hopefully, at some point, I will learn better brush maintenance, and I will not ruin the Winsor & Newton I've got waiting. But I brush soap and leave them in all the time. After every use, I use Master's Brush Cleaner. And I had some Winsor & Newtons that I was using, some Series 7s, and I ruined those and found out why I ruined them. But, like, because I've got one number 1 right now, and that's all I can kind of afford to have. I don't want to use that brush yet until I've kind of learned to take better care of my brushes. So I've been using a bunch of Games Workshop brushes that I found that I bought years ago, and I'm trying to learn how to be gentle with these so I can be really gentle with the Winsor & Newton, and you know, not destroy it in a month. But that doesn't seem to be working because I'm going through these Games Workshop brushes at about 1 a month. But I don't know. Maybe once I switch over to the Winsor & Newton one, it'll be a revelation, and I'll have that thing with me for... how often do I paint? That's probably the other part of it. At least for an hour or 2 a day, I try to. Because I'm really trying to get my skills up, because I want to be good at this, and I want to make money doing it. So that probably has a lot to do with it too. Yeah, that is true. If daily I'm going to go through. That seems to be the case. When I started this hobby, I was not painting that much, and I was using cheap brushes and et cetera, yada yada. But as I started getting better, I started wanting to get better, and that's kind of feeding into itself. So I'm going through brushes quicker now because of it. So that probably has a large amount to do with it. What I am kind of impressed by is how long this hobby has stuck with me. And that's what's made me really happy. Usually when I get into a hobby, I get really obsessed with it for like a year. And I spend a lot of money on it, and then I kind of reach a saturation point where my brain just goes, okay, you've gotten everything you can out of the hobby. Time for you to move on to something else. And then I do. Like, I'll still casually do the other thing, but nowhere near to the same degree of obsession or dedication that I did. Some other brushes are better hair. Yeah. That's my understanding too, and that's why I sprung for the Winsor & Newtons a couple Christmases ago. But in this case, like I said, I had a couple of number 1s and a number 0 and a 00, but I kind of ate through those really quickly. And now I've got a single number 1 that's unopened, and I've been scared to open it. Because I keep hearing that Winsor & Newton is kind of like the best hobbyist brush you can get. So I'm saving it. But yeah, like before this, I was really into Magic the Gathering, and that lasted for about 1.5 years before I got tired of how oversaturated that game's products were. And before that was boxing, and you know, it just keeps going. But right now, I've been stuck on mini painting now for about 3 years, and I don't see any signs of it abating. So soak it in water and get the brush stiffer on it. Yeah, I try to. I have a paint puck, which right now the water in it looks absolutely disgusting because I haven't washed it out in about a day. But I have a paint puck. And I actually have a little sponge that I use to gently wipe down the brush, and then I'll wipe it down on a paper towel to get some of the moisture out. But I'm definitely not hard on my... At least I don't think I'm hard on my brushes. I'm trying. Miniatures are a lot like those. They are, right? I mean, part of that is just... Darn it. Actually, no, that looks fine. part of that is just my personality. If I learn that there's a skill that I can get better at, I will relentlessly train that skill until I reach that level of better. You never quit, you just don't do it and then come back to it. I'm waiting until I get to that don't do it part. This has just been kind of a snake feeding itself, you know what I mean? Or eating its own tail. I just keep going. But it's because they keep releasing new minis and they're all so cool. I didn't when they changed the rules. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, like, the game itself is not the big appeal for me. I do like it and it's fun and whatever, but no, the big appeal for me has been painting the minis and, like, reading the fiction. So, as long as I have access to painting minis, I'm probably going to be stuck on this for a while. Yeah, exactly. Especially with all the content creators now. Good lord. You know, they've got all these guys now on My Mini Factory that I forgot his other elbow, that are just releasing these beautiful, beautiful sculpts. And, you know, that just makes you want to print those and paint those. And even when you get bored of their style, there's always someone new releasing something new. And then suddenly you've got, like, a whole new obsession to deal with. And at some point I got to get back into doing D&D. I was really obsessed with D&D for a minute. And then that kind of fell off too. Always been looking at tons of other minis from other games. Me too, man. I've looked at a lot of Corvus Belli Infinity. What other ones? I really wanted to get into Malifaux for a while. There's just a ton of games that all appeal to me. I'm not a huge fan of the actual franchise, but even like the Star Wars game looked interesting. I wanted to do Fallout Wasteland Warfare, even though I don't like the new Fallout games very much. It's just, like you said, it's kind of endless. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of money to spend on this stuff, so I've got to be really careful with my purchases. And right now, the thing that's basically saved my ass this entire time has been the fact that I bought a 3D printer. Because it basically allows me to feed that need to paint without having to spend an arm and a leg to get the minis to do so. Okay, let's shade that in a little bit, because that's a little bit obscured by the fact that it's got Gauntlet on either side. That's why they call it plastic wreck. You're not wrong. You are not wrong. Okay. So what level do you typically paint your minis to? I saw some female Khorne Berserkers. Yeah, they have some neat new stuff. I think my favorite ones have been like the Sisters of Battle that someone did, where they were corrupted by each god. Each chaos god. I thought that was really neat. Actually, why am I even asking that question? I'm pretty sure I've seen your minis. You've posted them on a scale of 1 to 3. My tabletop was about 1. I want to do my minis to a 3 now. That's fair. I mean, especially with tabletop, right? They're going to be 6 or like 3 feet away. Who really cares? But you're trying to get them up to like display level. Good luck, man. I want to spend like hours on each. That's absolutely fair. I mean, that's kind of what's happening to me, because I learned to speed paint and I got pretty decent at it, and then I was like, well, now I'm bored. I'm running through my minis too quickly and I really want to appreciate them. And that's when I started moving on to learning some of these more advanced techniques, because it's like, yeah, my minis look cool, but how can I make them look great? How can I make them so that people who know I'm look at a 35, if I make it to 60, I can put the time in. Hey, you're as old as I am. I turned 36 in about a month, though. So yeah, you're not wrong. There's nothing stopping us, right? This is the time to learn new skills and to enjoy life and to branch out and all that other dumb shit they tell you. But I mean, a lot of my hobbies I started late. Like this one, I started doing Warhams at like 32 or 33, and started boxing at like my late 20s. So there's no age limit. Do shit you want to do when you want to do it. As long as you're not hurting anyone, who cares, right? And honestly, I'm especially loving this new, like, well, it's not really new. It's been going on for a couple years now, but this trend of more acceptance and like being allowed to be your true self without having to feel guilty or bad about it. I don't know how much you're seeing it, but in the communities I'm in, there's a lot more acceptance of like, I like this thing that most people would have thought is meant for children, but I really enjoy it for XYZ, and so I should be allowed to do so. And other people are like, right on, yeah, you go ahead and do that. Because I'm kind of seeing that with like Warhammer and miniature painting, right? This was a game that was kind of meant for young adults and kids, and neither of us are technically young adults, but no one gives a shit that we enjoy it. Find your happiness, right? Okay. Speaking of finding my happiness, I say if you don't hurt yourself or others, you should be able to do what you want when you want. That is absolutely correct. As long as no one's getting hurt, then let me paint my space fascist. And I mean that in all seriousness, right? I mean, it's all about escapism and just being able to enjoy yourself and express yourself. So as long as you're not actively hurting people and not hurting yourself, like, I mean, there's a million things I could be doing right now, and a lot of them are far worse for me than this. Speaking of that, speaking of not speaking of, just looking at it, this arm's turning out pretty darn good. I'm doing the good work. Look at me go. But yeah, like, oh man, that looks terrible. It looks fine. One of the biggest things that I've been trying to do is just watching other really good painters and seeing how they're doing things. And so I'm trying to, oh no, the pale sand got a skin on it. Right now I'm just trying to do highlights, and highlights have been like my white whale for a little while. I haven't felt like I'm really good at them, and so I'm trying to. Yeah, Vince put out a nice video on washes. I bet I need to watch more. Vince Venturello, right? The freaking guru of YouTube painters. Yeah, he's amazing. He's one of those guys. I was really sad to find out how discouraged he was about Golden Demon, but he laid his points out really eloquently and reasonably, and so I definitely appreciate that. I'm just sad that the experience has kind of been ruined for him. That is something I'd like to do. I want to start entering more competitions and seeing how I stack up and where my skills are. Jason from Monument put a good video on painting black and highlights. I'll need to watch that. I don't think I watched Monument. Is it Monument Hobbies? I'm still mainly... I made, like, the weird transition from watching a bunch of beginner guys, like, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting their names now? Like the Painting Coach and Midwinter Minis. I went from watching them to jumping right into, like, Angel Giraldez and Juan Hidalgo and Jose da Vinci. And so I went from the guys for the beginners to the guys who are putting out their own books on how to paint well. So I probably ought to start looking at some of that middle ground in there too. But yeah, I've got my I upload this stuff to a YouTube channel that I have, and I'm using that YouTube channel as kind of a staging ground for me to start having playlists of just how to paint XYZ. So how to do metals, or how to do cloths, or how to do skin. And so hopefully I can start paying more attention to that and really start to learn how to do some of this stuff. Because I do want to expand past Warhammer at some point. I don't want to be stuck painting Space Marines and the like, even though they are fun. Eventually I'm going to move on to painting some of those other really neato models. Okay. There we go. think I might have gone a little bit aggressive with some of these highlights, but I think they're going okay. Maybe a little more down here. And a little more right there. And then once that happens, I can go back to the buff. And mayhaps scooch it out a little bit. Golly, buff looks awfully pale from here. I think that's fine. I'll come back to that and see if I like it later. Wow, his upper body's almost done. Okay. Oh my goodness. His student took gold though his Titan. Instead of, yeah, for his Titan. Yeah. Was that the Night Tyrant that was like charging at the camera? Sorry, I completely missed that a second ago. Because I remember seeing that model for Golden Demon and thinking, my god, that is a beautiful paint job. There were some really good paint jobs at Golden Demon this year. I've got my work cut out for me if I want to get to that time. Okay. What is there really left to do on his upper body? Probably hit that shoulder, that chest plate. Probably hit this with a little bit more brightness. I think when I placed the shield down, I might have made a mistake. I'll look at that in a second. Give me one moment. I'm trying to blend and it's not going very well. But that's okay. Okay. Give me a second. What you got here? Yes! Ivan Bocic. That is... I love that model. His paint job's amazing on it. And his pose is just chef's kiss, beautiful. Easily one of my favorite models that are not models, Imperial Knights that I've seen. It's so good. There we go. There we go. Well, bam. For anyone who happens to be here but is quiet and lurking, just beautiful, beautiful job on that model. The basing on it looks fantastic. That's something else I need to keep working on. The pose is super dynamic. The lighting on that thing is really, really good. I'm obviously no professional judge, but my god, did they nail it. But yeah, at some point I'll try and enter Golden Demon, just so I can see if I can get my stuff to the display cases. And if I can do that, then bully for me. I'm having a problem with this. It looks too chunky. Okay, so... I don't know what else to do. Always have a goal to work towards. Exactly. And again, that's what drives this damn hobby for me so much, you know? Well, it should for anyone, is that it's so easy to find a new goal to want to do. And I think that that's really great. This guy killed it with the shadows in his pants. I'll look at that in a second. I gotta do, speaking of pants, I gotta do this guy's back real quick. Because I don't like how it looks. Looks a little too painterly for my liking. And now that I've done that, and I've messed up the strap, go back over the strap. Okay. Yeah, Andy Wardle. He I don't know how he managed to make that look like silk or cashmere, but he really got it. Not cashmere, velour. I don't remember what it's called. But it's so good. It's so very good. I've seen this model at the store, and I was like, that model's gross, and I'm not fond of it. But I look at this one, it's like it's a thing of beauty. That is a fantastic model. I wonder if like Rogue Trader hits it big, you know what I mean? Like that game that is coming out, if that hits it big, if they decide to re-release Rogue Trader, or like they've got Wrath and Glory, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but they've got those games coming out. If they do well enough, if they're going to start selling minis for role playing, you know what I mean? Because I'd love to see some mini representation of like planetary governors and the nobility and some of those things that you've got those great gross or not gross, but you know, illustrations of. I'd just love to see them in mini form, and they kind of did that in Necromunda, didn't they? They've got that new noble lady coming out, and she just looks absolutely amazing. Everything about her just looks obscenely ostentatious and wealthy, and she's got that like perfect look on her face of "Don't touch me, commoner." It's beautiful. That's the kind of thing that I'm hoping to see. Okay, I'd love to see minis like that for D&D. So they got a few new minis coming out. Yeah, they do. They got some really cool ones. I really like the Terminator Librarian. I'm very excited for the Terminator Librarian. Oh my god. Someone did a real quick job where they repainted him as a word bearer and like made all of his runes red. And gave him a Chaos Marine head, like one of the grinning ones, and it looks so perfect. That one I'm excited for. It looks like they're going to be doing a Redemptor Dreadnought that has like long-range artillery bits. So he's got like the missile pod and the las cannon or whatever that the original Dreadnought has. I'm not overly fond of the Redemptor Dreadnought. I think it looks doofy, but I love the fact that they're harkening back to like the original Dreadnought box knot. I want them to release a true scale box knot. Do it, GW, you cowards. How did I get oh, I got a moisture spot there, and I don't know how to fix that, so I'm just gonna leave it be. No, I'm not gonna leave that be. I'll figure this out. That's kind of my hope. I really want them to release true scale tactical squads. I want to see more true scale. I miss the true scale. I miss the firstborns, and it looks like they've kind of gone back on that. You know what I mean? They basically said, you know, even Call couldn't improve the Terminators, so the Terminators are gonna look exactly like they always have. I think that's fantastic. They seem to be getting away with the Primaris keyword as a thing that restricts minis from being with riding certain transports. I'm pretty excited about the stuff they're doing, and I hope it turns out good. If they manage to pull me back from one-page rules, I will be very, very impressed. Okay. I think that'll do it. Down here, though. Yeah, I mean, I like one-page rules, but it lacks the flavor of 40K, you know? My biggest thing about it has always been what I imagined my armies would do as Imperial Fists or as Custodes or whatever, Death Guard. So playing as like Plague Brothers and Battle Brothers just does not hit the same notes for me. Okay. He ain't perfect, but he's pretty darn good. Let's see if I can hit this without making a huge mess, because that corner needs just a little bit of, yes, just a little touch of a highlight. And this kind of has the same deal, because I can still see the brown underneath it. That can look like that. And then we can kind of scooch that up so that it blends back into the yellow. The yellow come down to meet it. There we go. Poor Imperial Fists. They're always going to look like cheese. Actually, the new color that's supposed to be used for the Imperial Fist definitely goes with a much more bright or a bright yellow than this stuff. I'm actually not even using what I normally use for these guys, because the recommended one for the longest time was like Averland Sunset, right? I found this. I found Vallejo Gold Brown, which is supposed to be a color match, and it's really close, but it doesn't have as much orange to it, I think. But it's definitely, because I didn't ruin it, it's definitely working better as a paint, and I'm really liking this color on this guy right here. Oh, I should probably go ahead and finish his belt off. But I just realized I did not. Which is now like considerably darker than everything else because the paint has had time to mix in with the black. So let's go ahead and redo all that. Okay, get that in there. All that. I'll go ahead and just paint the holster the same color. That's what I was doing already. It'll be nice and dark on this so I can brighten it back up. And for his pistol handle, we're just gonna go straight black. So have you read The Lion? Oh yeah, I was gonna talk to you about or mention how the psychic stuff is now working in 10th edition. The way they've got it set up is they mentioned that they have the psychic powers on the individual data sheets, so you don't have to go back and constantly reference a page. They weren't lying about that, and it definitely looks fantastic. And the way they've got it set up is that if it's an offensive spell, so if it's one that does damage or whatever, then they have it set under your ranged weapons. So I don't remember if smite was a thing, but for like the the weird boy, they had his offensive, the heck is it called? His smite was a thing, but I don't remember if I saw it on one of the new data sheets. It probably is. It's probably on the it's almost definitely on the data sheet for the Terminator librarian, but I was looking more closely at the Weird Boy one because my friend plays orcs and I was interested to tell him about some new orc stuff. But smite, for example, would be under ranged weapons, ranged attacks, and it gives you the instructions on how to do it there. And because they're leaning so heavily into the keyword thing now, it typically has that. So if you give me a second, I'll pull up both of the data sheets and we can look at them together. But if they have another thing, like, like I was just talking about, the Weird Boy has the jump. It's over off to the side as an extra ability, and it tells you when you can use it, it tells you how to use it, and what it does. I really like these new data cards that they made because I feel like they do a great job of explaining the individual model really well without having to cross-reference 8 or 9 different parts of the source book. And while there is still the issue of, keywords that you might not know, that's a whole lot easier than having to look up a whole bunch of different books, I feel. So that's the librarian. Yeah, smite. He has witched fire and he has focused witch fire. And if you look at it, it does a pretty good job of explaining how each one of those work. And they both have psychic on them. Smite, focused witch fire has devastating wounds, hazardous, and psychic. I believe hazardous, if you roll a 1, it deals damage to you or potentially kills you. I don't remember which. Wow, I didn't realize the librarian and Terminator armor had 5 wounds. Holy crap. Oh, they're up to toughness 5 now. I forgot about that. They have the combi weapon, devastating wounds. I don't remember what that does. Anti-infantry 4+ means it always hits on it always hits infantry on a 4-up. Oh, force weapon has psychic. See, again, don't know what all this stuff does, but we'll eventually find out, and that's what's great. Weird Boy has Ed Banger, that's the ranged weapon. Precision, Psychic. Oh, and they just gave them a straight ballistic skill for it, so they don't have to roll a psychic test, I guess. I don't know. We'll find out. I love the jump. My friend loves the jump. So I'm excited to see how he's going to use it, because you can now attach, and you should attach hero units, or hero models to different units. So he could take this Weird Boy and just, you know, throw him in with 20 boys or something, then do the jump. And, and then, you know, shoot and charge. So they did a good job streamlining it. And that was one of the things that sold me on one-page rules originally, was everything was on the one page. And that was just fantastic. It did make life a whole lot easier, and it made playing the game a whole lot easier. And so seeing them do that with 40K just gives me excessive joy. Something they kept trying to emphasize about the game is that with the new system, the game may be more simplified or more streamlined, but it doesn't mean it's simplified. You know what I mean? And we'll see how successful they are at that soon enough, because they are going to have demos of 10th edition at Warhammer Fest, which is at the end of April. And I'm so friggin' jealous that I can't go to that, because I don't live in Britain. And a ticket's way too expensive because I'm a public school teacher. And so I'm just going to start with this light gray, and I'm eventually going to work myself up to the white. Because as mentioned a million times by a million different painters, you can't highlight brighter than white. There we go. Now, something I have been doing with my with my Imperial Fists is I have been giving them all green lenses, because I like the green against the yellow more than I like the red against the yellow. It adds an extra layer of contrast, given that all my guys have been third company. So hopefully this trend will continue and this will look okay. And hopefully my green has not clogged itself and I'll be able to actually get it out of the bottle. Oh no, don't do this to me. Don't be clogged. Please don't be clogged. I don't want to explode this. I'm scared. There we go. Nope, it was not clogged. Thank goodness. Only thing I do not like about the dropper bottles is if the paint is thick enough, it'll just explode everywhere and make me very sad. It'll clog, I'll push harder, and then suddenly I'll have a whole ton of it everywhere and I gotta clean that shit up. But yeah, something else they're doing, which I don't know if you saw, but I really appreciate, is allowing models, a certain number of models, to shoot from a transport when they're embarked inside. And I think that's freaking cool, because they had that information, I think it was for the Rhino, when they showed off vehicle toughness and how much tougher vehicles we got. Oh no. Oh no, no, that is a terrible eye. Clean that out. Try again. Okay, I'm gonna need to get tissue paper because I can't get all that moisture out. There we go. Now this is going to be the problem I have, because I have essentially ruined this brush. Get as much of this in here as possible without ruining the rest of the paint job. I think that looks okay, but I cannot tell. It looks greener than it did. Good Lord, I legitimately cannot tell what I'm doing. I'm sorry that he's doing cartwheels for the camera right now. Part of the problem was I was not able to get all of the paint out of his eye when I stripped him. So I'm going to keep making excuses for myself and say that it's previous me's fault that I can't see them. Okay, might need a little more moisture there, so we're gonna mix that up. There's a little bit more of that in there. And pray, because I am not happy with this eye. Not be until I apparently get it everywhere. There we go. That's much better. Perhaps I can get this. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Now, time to make life more difficult for myself. That is something that always stuns me about watching like these master painters, is watching them get these tiny little spots with a macro camera or whatever, and just seeing how steady their hands are at getting the most tiny details and just making it look so easy. And I know to some extent they've got years and years and years of practice doing this, but like, I'm holding my breath as I'm doing this, as I'm painting these guys' eyes. But they have these tiny little brushes that just have the perfect point on them, and they're able to hit the exact spot that they want. I'm just like, how do you have all that control, my good man? Or woman, because there are some amazing painters across the spectrum. And I mean, like, if you see how I'm holding it, I am like bracing in all sorts of ways. I've got like a scaffold happening with my fingers to try and make this work. And it's kind of working. It's kind of... I mean, most of them are using Winsor & Newton's or not Artist Opus, even though his brushes are apparently pretty okay. They're mostly using Winsor & Newton's or Raphael's or Da Vinci's. And I've used Da Vinci's and I hated them because I got a bad set. I've used Winsor & Newton and I thought they were really good, but mine did not come that incredibly refined. I have no idea who Bombwick is. Are they good? Do you like them? It's kind of crazy to me. I don't know if I still have the brush or if I finally chucked it. I think I finally chucked it. I had a liner brush, just like a cheap liner brush that came as part of Monument Hobbies. Okay. That's fair, and I'm assuming since he's a hobby painter, he's got some really nice brushes that are made to his specification. Which is obviously very good in its own right. Okay, let's see if I can tempt the fates. Let's see if I can put an eye lens dot on the far end of this guy's freaking eye lens without ruining it. Oh my god, I got it there. It's so tiny you can't see it, but I got it there. He's having them made in Germany. They're going to be in-house soon in AZ. AZ is in Arizona. Okay, next one. Come on, hold your breath. Okay, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Got it. Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, something that I did read about why, like, the Kolinsky sable brushes seem to be getting worse is that we have some import laws about importing Kolinsky sable from Russia, and I don't remember why, but that's supposedly a reason why a lot of the quote-unquote good Kolinsky sable brushes have progressively gotten worse over the past few years. I have no idea how true it is, but it seems believable. Oh my goodness, did I just ruin... Why are his eyes so uneven? What have I done to the man? There's a war going on. That definitely is part of it. I think. I thought it had more to do with like an animal cruelty thing than specifically that there's an embargo on Russian product, but I do not know, and that's not something that I really feel like I can dip my toes into. I don't have anywhere near enough information or enough like knowledge on that. Yeah, his eyes are all kinds of daffy. I don't know what I did to him, but I'm going to try and fix it. Which means I'm basically going to start over. Okay, I guess in his case, I'm just going to have to pull the brush towards me. In the back, and hope that that does it. I don't know enough either on the Russian topic, so yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Something's happening over there. There's a war, and we can't get more Kolinsky Sable from him. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's see. Actually, wait a minute. Wait a darn minute. Let's get some black on there. Mix it in with the gray. Make it darker gray. Maybe I can make this a little better. I have a feeling that someone's going to pop into this who really knows what they're doing. They're going to watch me fumble around and be like, wow, he's trying all right. Mayhaps I can angle that up so I have more of a defined line under the eye. That's gonna happen. Oh, that got covered beautifully. Okay, next is going to... Nope, we gotta cover that up too. My understanding is that this is a lot of detail. How you do detail work is you make mistakes and you cover it up. You kind of got to go back and forth until everything looks perfect. And right now I'm struggling on the looks perfect part. Okay. I'm gonna wait for that to dry. But actually, whoa. Did I just accidentally do that right? Because I think the layers that I painted on these guys eyes were so thin that they were like a glaze, and I can still see his eye showing through that darker glaze. On this one, I think the gray might have gotten a little too high, and now it is actively interfering with the lens. You can see right there. Yeah, you can see right there that it's causing some grief. So I'm gonna go back in with the black. Then repaints, focuses on one eye for 30 minutes. Wow, that's almost black. So we're going to paint that up a little bit more green. Fair enough, I suppose. And now we're going to pair that up. I'm going to paint that up with a little bit more green. I got to basically redo this entire eye because I think I fudged it a little bit. That's okay. Part of the learning process. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Come on, I know I've got green paint on this brush. Stop gaslighting me. There we go. And a little bit of light stuff. Just a little bit of streak, nothing too drastic. And actually, that looks like it's going to have to do. Beautiful. Beautiful enough. Okay. Now, I suppose I gotta pull some white out and actually go ahead and paint his helmet. Okay. Oh, wow. Why have you done this? The white has exploded inside the cap, so if you give me a second, I'm going to clean this out, and then I will be good to go with putting some more white on his helmet to give him some nice highlights. Oh, cool. Easy enough. So I think the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to mix some of the white in with the gray, and then I'm going to leave the white for the utmost highlights. And we'll see how good or bad that looks. Because that is my understanding on how to do this. So I'm going to do 1 part light gray, 1 part white. That is clearly a brighter color, which is exactly what I want. And that's going to go on a majority of the helmet. And we're going to see what we can do with this. Yeah, that's a considerably brighter gray. Same thing there. Thank you, appreciate it. Like I said, I'm trying to make it as detailed as I possibly can. I'm going in as hard as I can with all of the different spots on him. I'm basically trying to paint him as though I'm going for a competition. And that's very difficult. I'm not used to putting this kind of time and effort into a mini. Even when I was painting for competition, I was not painting this hard. My local game store had a minor competition a while ago, and that's kind of what gave me the confidence to start streaming. Was I entered that competition and won. And it's like, well, clearly I'm not the only one that thinks I'm a decent painter, so gonna go ahead and start streaming this stuff, meeting new people, giving tips, and etc., etc. But yeah, this is by far the hardest I've ever gotten on a mini. So hopefully, by the time I'm done, he's going to be beautiful. And I mean, the other positive to this is just by working as hard on this one as I am, it's going to make, you know, the rest of my painting better, because now he's become the standard. And so everything else I paint is going to be that much easier because I've raised my standard up for this guy. At least, you know, that's the hope. And this will make my commissioning look that much more attractive. Because people will see that I'll paint to this level and be like, oh my goodness, he's really good at this. I want to throw money at him so he can paint my little plastic toy soldiers. Okay, let's go ahead and go down a little bit. Now, one thing I do kind of wish I did, which I neglected to do, was I kind of wish I took a picture of him before I stripped him. Because, like I said, he wasn't a bad paint job. He was definitely more of a table-ready paint job, though, you know what I mean? The goal for him was to be ready so I could play him really quickly. Right now, I want this man to be beautiful. Okay. Actually, I don't want to do that. Knock most of that off. Get some more back on. And no, he actually looks like he's gotten a pretty decent highlight. So, next step is going to be add more white. Make the brights brighter. And hope that I don't overdo it. So I suppose, and this is the other part that I'm trying to get better at too, is I see how the color looks when it's slapped on the Mini. And I go, oh my goodness, that's too solid. And then I try and work it again. And what I've started to realize is that what you really need to do is just friggin' wait. Let the paint dry. It will dry down to whatever natural color it needs to be. And from there you can decide if you need to make any changes or if you need to blend back. But the more you futz around with it now, the more you're just kind of pushing it around and leaving awkward water spots all over your Mini. So, be patient, you know? I am not a patient man. But I'm learning. I'm trying. You can also use a hairdryer. That is true. I have one actually sitting under my desk. It's hooked into my keyboard tray. And I use it all the time when I'm airbrushing. But generally what ends up happening is and I'm actually trying to show a lot of restraint right now. But the stuff that I just went over, I'll see how bright it is in comparison to what what I just put on the previous layer. And I'll freak out and I'll start pushing it around and trying to thin it down or whatever. And then I just end up making everything look worse. So what I'm trying to do instead is leave it alone until it dries and then go back to it. But yeah, the hairdryer has been a game changer in a lot of ways for me. I'm really happy that I bought a cheap-ass hairdryer and I've been using it. So that is something I would recommend to anyone out there who is trying to learn mini painting and wants to, is get yourself a hairdryer. Thinning happens in the mix before you can even put it on the mini. I know, right? Okay, so what I want to do now is kind of... do some of that. And take some of this. And there we go. That's a really nice little blend. I'm so off center right now. One of the biggest problems I have with how I'm set up with my studio lights, I'm using like a little photography light that has a desk clamp, and I'm using another arm clamp for my camera, which is actually my cell phone, and I'm having the biggest problem with it because getting in this close means I'm almost instinctively hitting both of them. And so I'm trying everything in my power to not hit the lamp or my camera. And it's not going well. I mean, it's not terrible, it's just that I'm really focusing in on trying to do a good job with this guy. So I've got to be really close to do a lot of this detail work. And so I've just made life very difficult on myself. I'm pretty sure I could find something that works better, but I haven't done that yet. I need to stop spending the money I make on commissions on buying new minis, and I need to spend that money on, I don't know, buying a better setup. But every time I get new money, I'm like, oh, I can spend this on new minis. Like you said, man, plastic crack. I actually really like how that looks. I think I'm gonna stick with that streaking, just that little streak of white. not even white, of light gray. I wonder. Yeah, I'm kind of doing it on both sides. Probably do that. Mix this back in. Let's see if I can. Let's angle it a little more so I have a little more of that highlight hitting across the entire thing. Kind of like how I got it right there, so it looks like a big streak of white. And the kicker is, that's not even white, it's still a very light gray. I've left myself room to grow. Okay. And now on to the really difficult parts. I'm gonna hit this again. I love that song that just played because I immediately thought it was Audioslave. And I think I might have mentioned this before, and I think you might have actually been here when I did. I was like, is that Chris Cornell? And I was like, it can't be Chris Cornell. And someone else in chat was like, yeah, it'd be really hard for it to be Chris Cornell given that he's dead. Oof. I'm sorry. I did not mean to make anyone feel sad. But yeah, Chris Cornell has passed. He passed a couple years ago. That is definitely not Chris Cornell. I forget who that actually is. One of these days I'll learn how to put music credits up in the chat so that people can see what songs are playing. But right now I'm really bad about it. I'm really bad about fixing the overlay because it does exactly what I need it to do right now, and so I'm not thinking very far ahead in any particular day. Okay. On to the lighter gray. It's almost white, actually. Go ahead and just kind of gently brush around the eye. That actually turned out real nice. And tip of this. There's no paint on there. I did nothing. I managed to strike it perfectly like 3 times and I did nothing because I have no paint on my brush. There we go. And I'm really scared to go much more firm than what I've already got, so I'm probably not going to push it too much harder. I say as I push it a little harder. Oh, that's why I didn't want to switch sides. I made things hard for myself. A little bit more of that white, mix it in, get myself back to that lighter gray. Let's actually mix this in so that, I mean, one of the things that the experts always say is that they're always going to look at the face, like their eyes are going to be drawn to the face, and so I want to make sure that I do a good job on face and that face look good. At the very least helmet, because I did not choose to be face for this guy. I think right now my favorite thing about him is because of how he's painted, he looks like he doesn't have pants on. You know, he's got his cool helmet, he's got his cool armor, everything else is gray. So it just looks like he's not wearing pants. I mean, clearly the guy is, but I find that funny. Okay, time to go all the way up to the brightest of whites. And that is going to be for the highlights around his head. I'm not actually going to use it painting anybody because it looks bright enough. Screw it up there, apparently. Okay. I think just a little bit of beautiful. I think just a little bit of a streak in here, show that it's been touched by the highlight. Oh goodness, this is so much. At least for me, this is quite nerve-wracking. The last thing I really want to do is ruin the last 2 or so hours of work. There we go. And a little bit of the white as a highlight here. Looks a little more painterly than I'd like it, but he's so damn tiny, no one's gonna notice. I gotta say, I'm really fighting the urge to really highlight the cross on his mouth, his cheek guard, by going back over it with like a black line. But I know for a fact if I do that, I am going to ruin this guy. Because I do not have a brush that is thin enough to go down in there and do anything remotely good looking. So I am going to, no. Actually, that turned out real nice. I'm going to not do that, and instead, I'm going to keep highlighting everywhere else. Just kind of skirt around that issue. And by everywhere else, I mean nowhere else, because I think his head is done for now. He's got them stupid little streaks coming off his helmet. I'm really scared because I really want to do, and I'm probably going to do, and I'm about to do, his the skull on his head. But to do the skull on his head, first I've got to go to a dark brown, and then I've got to work my way back up to a buff color so I can get a good bone color off of him. And I'm really scared I'm going to hit everything else. Here I go. And see, I'll be completely honest, this is where having a really, really good magnifier would help. But that is something else I don't have because I haven't bought it yet. Okay. So, I'll let that dry for a second. Get some water, just a little dip of it. Get it into... Oh no, it dried out. No, it didn't. Okay, I still got some buff left on there. Take the buff. And we're going to go ahead and gently, that's a lot of moisture. And brush it over top. And hope I didn't mess up the whole thing. Hopefully when that dries, it'll look good. I'm not messing with that anymore. I'm afraid if I do, it'll make it worse. But that is actually a good place for me to stop. I just spent the last, I don't know how long, stressing out about his dang face. I wonder, actually, keep doing this to myself. I wonder if I can get some more highlights around that cross with a brighter color that really elevates, that really emphasizes the cross. I'm scared, but no, I don't want to. Oh, that was the saddest thing I've ever done. But yeah, I think I'm done with that. I think the helmet looks good. I think the face looks good. I got his arm looking pretty darn good. I got his hand looking good. I'm gonna leave him at that, and I think that's gonna be time for me to hop off. So thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. I hope that was entertaining, if not a little bit, weird. But I don't know. I won't be able to hop on tomorrow. I'm actually staying after school because there are some students who are part of the Tabletop Gaming Club who are interested in painting minis. So I'm gonna lead a small session on that. And by the time I get home, it'll be, time to have dinner, hang out with my wife. So at the very earliest, I suppose I will see you on Thursday. Thanks again for joining. I'll see you later, guys. Have a good one, and goodbye. Later.